Right now, Bitcoin, if you had to compare, Bitcoin is probably a digital version of gold, right? The best version of gold. I heard Saylor say this before, pharmaceutical grade gold. All the goodness, none of the badness. But you know what? Gold also went through many periods where it did not move at all. Okay. In fact, you could argue over the last 10 to 12 years, it really didn't move. But there has been stints where it kind of hovered, it went up, and people are saying, well, Bitcoin is kind of moving the same way right now, right? If you look at what happened since 2020 till now, gold have started to rise, right? Gold is actually above. Now it's like an all-time high, like almost 2,500. So is Bitcoin next? Well, the obvious answer is yes. Bitcoin's not only next, Bitcoin will someday surpass gold, right? Bitcoin is not going to be satisfied being second fiddle to gold. If you look at, this is interesting, if you look at top monetary assets, including countries in here, I didn't know you could actually categorize countries of the world into assets, but if you did, United States would be number 2, followed by the Eurozone at number 3, China at number 4, Japan number 5. But look at gold is number 1, around 15 trillion in overall market cap, and Bitcoin is sitting at number 6, 1.2 trillion, right? Imagine when one day Bitcoin itself will be worth more than countries like Japan, China, Europe, and the United States, and one day even flip gold at $15 trillion. That would be insane. How high will each Bitcoin be if it flips gold? You may be wondering. $813,000 each. So this notion that Bitcoin one day, right, will go to 1 million plus. Saylor and others have called it. And it seems like that's fantasy world, that there's no way in hell that Bitcoin will ever reach $1 million. Well, it's not that far-fetched if you think about it, because it has to go up to 800,000 just to reach the market cap of gold. So it's not unreasonable. Gold is already up there, right? So can Bitcoin get up there and get to $1 million eventually? Yes. It's going to take a couple cycles. Maybe it's not going to take that many cycles. If Bitcoin ends up at 250,000 by the end of next year, and that's peak of this cycle, it only needs to do a 4x from there to hit $1 million. That could come in the next cycle. So that could all come before 2030. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, Cathie Wood predicted as much. ARK said in best case scenario, Bitcoin will be at 1.6 million by the end of 2030. And even in a mid scenario, I think she predicted it was like $670,000 for Bitcoin by 2030. So we don't even have to wait that much longer. And all of this, in case you're wondering what this has to do with inflation, all this makes you opt out, right? Because as inflation continues to go higher, as it robs people of their purchasing power, you'll notice that things become more and more expensive, right? Buying a car will be astronomically expensive in the future, as even normal everyday cars are now getting to like $40,000, $50,000. Houses will become insanely expensive. Even eating out and dining at a restaurant will soon cost $30, $40, $50 a person. Assuming you don't go to anywhere fancy, right? But holding assets like Bitcoin, you want to do that when there's inflation, especially when there's hyperinflation, because it helps assets appreciate, right? So part of that, if you don't believe Bitcoin will go to $1 million, part of that is due to inflation, just never-ending inflation. So you don't want your purchasing power robbed. You want your purchasing power to be increased. And that's how you do it, by purchasing assets. And there's no asset that moves faster than Bitcoin. It's really that simple. Not even Apple, not even Microsoft, not even Nvidia. No one moves as fast. No asset out there moves as fast as Bitcoin. If you want to comment on anything I've said in this video, make sure you head over to the Roundtable. The Roundtable is a new social media platform created for conversations. And best of all, it's spam-free, bot-free, unlike here on YouTube. And you could have conversations with me and others like Altcoin Daily, Scott Melker, Mauro Nafal, and many others are joining daily. And you also get rewarded in tokens for doing so. So check out the new Roundtable. Click the link in the description below. But today, the US market is opening in the green, especially NASDAQ. You can see up 1 percentage point already. And that's because we've received the PPI inflation data. Okay, this is not the big one. The big one is coming tomorrow, CPI. But nevertheless, PPI is still measurement of inflation, and it shows that inflation rose less than expected. Okay, many thought it would rise by 0.2%. Instead, 0.1%. This is for last month, right? Now, if you ignore everything else, you would look at this and say, well, that's pretty good. Inflation is coming down, right? So that means goods and services and everything else in between should be getting cheaper, right? And if so, well, that is fantastic, right? Obviously, who doesn't want cheaper goods and services? The thing is, though, the reason why it's coming down, well, number one, a lot of people think this is just fudge. This is just all made up because this is giving Powell excuse to cut the Fed fund rate next month. Mt. Gox has just distributed another $2 billion, this time to BitGo. They've been distributing like billions upon billions to all the exchanges. Soon, there will be no more. Soon, we will not have to worry about Mt. Gox ever again, right? So let them distribute. And these exchanges have been distributing. And so far, I mean, we haven't seen massive dumps. It was always predicted when Mt. Gox distributes that 180,000 Bitcoin, it's going to tank the market. It's going to bring it down to its knees. It's not. Most people that are getting it are just holding it, right? Why would you want to sell Bitcoin now, one of the worst periods to be selling, right? But the good thing is we may be over from this soon, forever. We're not going to hear about Mt. Gox ever again. It's such a stupid name, too, if you think about it. Magic the Gathering exchange. And somehow became a Bitcoin exchange.